What is up as a figure hunter, and today we're going to do the final review for the Coros Nomad. I'm a couple days late in when I wanted this to get out. We're going to look at all the ins and outs and compare it to other watches on the market and other watches from the Coros platform. If you're new to the channel, I test devices for a little bit higher intensity interval training or more intense weightlifting, as well as recovery and wellness, and looking at the training analytics and the recovery analytics of all the watches on the market today. And this is a new sort of departure. I wouldn't say a significant departure from the design and the overall aspects of Coros's line of watches, but it's their new sort of adventure watch, Instinct-esque and similar to the G-Shock type watches for $350 relative to the Pace Pro at $350 and the Apex 2 Pro at $450. And we're going to talk about today what's new and different about the watch, what works, what I like about the watch, what doesn't really work, what I don't like about the watch, versus the Apex 2 Pro and the Pace Pro, specifically from the Coros lineup, versus the Instinct 3 specifically, and versus what other things you can get for $350 on the market today, and then just a brief and overall summary. Okay, so what's new and different? It has a new casing. Obviously, it's just got this sort of 48 millimeter casing. The casing is a different sort of design, more rugged design than the previous sort of simple designs of their watches from the past, other than the Verdix 2, which is at the top of the lineup. So it's more of a more affordable at $350 budget casing. It's got a 1.3 inch, that's another thing that's different, 1.3 inch memory and pixel screen, but the quality and the brightness is a little bit crisper than the previous predecessors that came before it. We'll talk about that because I feel like it's still not quite as clear and crisp as you might want it to be for even memory and pixel. So it's got a 24 millimeter quick release band, which is totally interesting because it's just rare. Usually it's 22 or 26, but either way, it's 24. It's got a touch screen. Touch screen works really well. The actual rotating crown is a little bit different because it's a little bit more reactionary to touches and action points like that. It's got dual band GPS. It's got, all the basic things, wellness and training tracking that the whole platform has, but it also has maps. With the maps, it has this new action button that they've added, a new button, which I think is fantastic. The thing about it is when you're in activity, you can just use the action button just to lock in and zoom around. I think that is genius. Just to quickly be able to use the maps now have roads and street names, so you can see exactly, and you can even pan around. It really is effective to have that action button that can take you straight to the maps. In addition, this is considered like an adventure watch, which means it also has specialty things when you're out on a long trek. It's got something they called an adventure journal, and you basically have the ability to add voice notes along the way, and you can add in pictures. I like to give a shout out to different reviewers that have highlighted things in their reviews, and DC Rainmaker does a great job explaining the adventure journal and how it ties in. You can tie in pictures and send people a 3D aerial of it. So check out his review for it. I'll try to link it in the description below, but it's got a microphone for adding voice notes to your journal adventure for activities and specifically. And one thing that's unique about it is it has a suite of, it locks up pretty regularly, a suite of sports profiles for fishing specifically, the only one of its kind that actually has super specific aspects for how many fish you caught and things like that. In simple terms, what's new and different is its bigger case. The screen is a little bit clearer, a little bit brighter, this action button and the enhancement of the maps, but the button really makes it for me. So that's what's new and different. So what did I like? I did like what I just showed you in that map. I like that you can functionally use the map by hitting the action button in a GPS activity and just jumping to the map and then jumping back. I feel like that is really useful for actually making the map useful and not having to scroll through a bunch of pages to get to the map, but just sort of jump in and out of the map. Really, really functional. I like the design, the build quality. I think the price at $350 is a good price. I do think the overall sort of layout and design feel of it. The rest of the things that I like are on the app, so we'll look at the app. Okay, so looking at the app, I do like that they incorporate an analysis of your training status over time, and you can see your base fitness rise as you push your overall workouts harder for different periods of time. I like that it has a track of how much recovery you have, like your time until you're fully recovered. The basics of sleep and the wellness, resting heart rate overnight, those are good that they have them. I'll talk more about that later. And then as far as the activities, I like that it will really fully evaluate your activity from a training load perspective. You can see that there. And, this is further back. But it'll give you a training load as well as, this is accurate. So this has got the most recent hard workout. So the training load evaluation as well as your training effect evaluation. So if I was going to give it things I like that it actually tracks your rigor evaluation as well as the aerobic and anaerobic training effects, and then gives you a recovery timeline between hard workouts, and then takes all that and puts it into your training status to determine your fitness development as you grow. It is sort of standard, but I like how they do it. Within the wellness, I think it's okay that they provide the basics of wellness, but I feel like everybody's kind of do that. They also have a strength protocol where if you wanted to type in specific workouts and go through those workouts, it would tell you what body part. I think it takes too much time, but the fact that they have it is another plus. So that's what I liked. So what did I not like? One of the things that is probably the biggest first thing I didn't like was the heart rate accuracy. And I did a whole review. I'll put a link in the description below. But you can see like here are a couple of sample workouts for CrossFit and how it did. And then even sample workout for lifting and how it did. And then just the overall correlation. It's not great. You'd want to connect to a chest strap. So the heart rate accuracy is not great for rigorous workouts or dynamic weightlifting. Rigorous workouts include your wrist. Not really, the journal thing that they added, that's just sort of more specific. I think that's cool, but I don't know if it's functionally that useful. Didn't really care about it one way or the other. The other bigger thing that I was not like for me was the brightness. The fact you can't make these things brighter. I've been testing watches a long time, and Garmin has long had transflective screens, as well as Suunto has had the vertical, and they're all brighter, and you can control the brightness. And so this doesn't feel capable of controlling that. I use reading glasses at 1.25, so not like super strong, but I can't read the text messages because the font is so small and the screen is not bright enough. So that would be more of a deal breaker for me, but the screen could get better and brighter and give you control over that. Third is the wellness. So if we were to talk about the wellness features, so you can see the simple HRV, your sleep, and your resting heart rate would have been something on the app. I feel like it's super shallow for this day and age. A lot of companies, if not all of them, are taking multi-metrics and giving you recommendations. They're taking a culmination of all sorts of wellness features and giving you some sort of coaching or summary in total. And this just feels like it's a step behind and it's lacking, even though it has some of the primary pieces. And then number 4, I just feel like it's just sort of average, like bigger points for things I don't like. It just feels like it's just sort of average in what they're offering relative to the competitive landscape. Even on the training, which used to be their feature leader, it just feels sort of average. So those are the things I liked and didn't like. So what do I consider, how do I compare it to the Apex 2 Pro as well as to the Pace Pro? So if I was going to compare it to the Apex 2 Pro, if we look at these sort of side by side and get them unlocked so we can rotate the crown, I feel like the Apex 2 Pro feels more solid, but it's $100 more. So it's $450 versus $350. And the screen quality just feels not quite as bright, although it's not terribly different. It wasn't a big improvement. I feel like the design's not my cup of tea with the Apex 2 Pro relative to the rigor. And so if I was going to go for it, I would definitely choose the Nomad. So I think the Nomad beats the Apex 2 Pro, even though the Apex 2 Pro has sapphire glass and a titanium body. I really like the design of the Nomad and the way they're functionally using the map with the button. And then when it comes to the Pace Pro, here you have a whole different design. So you have your AMOLED screen versus your memory and pixel. And so you can see how significantly different it makes the experience one versus the other. So, AMOLED is just so much brighter. Now, I am 100% AMOLED all the way, but I don't like the casing of the Pace Pro. It just sort of feels sort of trinkety. I don't like that it has a big word Coros on the side. It's $350, so the same price, but it's just different. It's just a different animal. So you decide for yourself which of these two you like. If it was me, I would be dependent. I would have to go Pace Pro because of the screen quality and clarity, although I would be sad. I would miss the casing of the Nomad. So that's versus it's, similar but different. Now let's talk about it relative to the Instinct 3. So the Instinct 3 is either $400 for the 45 millimeter, $450 or $500 for the different levels of the 50 millimeter. So I would say in some ways it's not the same. Yes, if you compare it to the $400 45 millimeter, I would say all of a sudden you're getting like a little baby watch relative one versus the other. But the things people talk about, the Instinct 3 versus the Nomad, is that the Nomad has color, the Nomad has touchscreen, the Nomad has maps. And all those things are true for a little bit cheaper design. But for me, when I look at the broader other things, the Instinct 3 is monochromatic. It's only got one color, so it's not going to work for maps. So maps wouldn't be an option. But outside of that, the Instinct 3 does have a flashlight, which is functionally awesome, especially if it's an adventure watch. The screen is so much brighter, and you can control the screen, but it's so much brighter and so much clearer on their version of the monochromatic memory and pixel. It's visually very, very different in real use for somebody that uses 1.25 readers. Let me just continue to say that. It's got a lot more, Instinct 3 has a lot more wellness and recovery metrics, a lot more feature set there in the training, and they both, and it has a better heart rate sensor. So it's got a better heart rate sensor on the Instinct 3. So it is sort of to each his own because it is sort of a different beast, but if it were me, I would probably feel like you would get more. You would lose the mapping, you'd lose the activity button, you'd lose the color. But an overall experience, I like the Instinct 3 better for usability and for training and wellness recovery metrics. So that's versus the Instinct 3. Now, versus every other $350 watch that's on the market today. We talked about the Pace Pro. We talked about some of Garmin's Instinct S that's within the same range. So if I was looking at other real competitors, I would look at the Suunto Race. So the Suunto Race S, the Suunto Race S, it's a touchscreen, it's got a scrolling wheel, but it's an AMOLED. So it is similar to what you might experience, but it does have a metal casing, so it's gonna beat the Pace Pro on the metal casing. They both have poor heart rate sensors. The heart rate sensors on both of these were lackluster in their results about the same. So you're not gonna lose anything there on lackluster results. You always have to connect to a chest strap if you're doing harder intensity training. But I think Suunto has a broader wellness and recovery aspect to it. They do, for sure. And the training is the same. And you would just have to drop some of the rigorous look to the Nomad to go to the Race S. But $350, I think the Race S does kind of win in that. If I'm looking at other watches from other manufacturers, I don't think Polar offers one that is as competitive in this price point. And then Garmin, I don't know that I would look to own any of the others. I wouldn't look to the 165 because it's just a different watch and it doesn't have training analytics. And some of the rest of their watches are just 450 and up, and I wouldn't compare it really to those. So that's how I would think it would compare versus $350 at other places. Now, what do I think in summary? What do I really think about the Nomad? I think it is an awesome design watch. I have really liked wearing it. I like the feel. I like the look. In general, I think it's pretty good at legibility. The bigger, for me, is the fact you can't make the brightness brighter. I meant to say it earlier, but it does have long battery life at 20 to 22 days. I didn't have any problems there. Obviously, it's a dimmer screen, so that does take into account why they might be getting more battery life, but it's a long battery life. But for me, I really like the feel, the design. I loved that I could push that button and get the map to pop up. That was really cool, and the fact that the map is functionally easy to zoom in and zoom out, processor works well. So on the flip side, I think that they need to increase their wellness and recovery analytics and feedback. I feel like that is a big Achilles heel for them in today's world, and I feel like that's got to get better. So those are my summary thoughts. you know, everybody's got their own opinion of what, you know, they think, but I do think that it offers a competitive feature set at $350. I think it's got a great design and great build. I would go with maybe a couple other manufacturers as consideration as if you're looking at this, but overall, that's the Coros Nomad. Final review. It's a figure hunter. Thanks so much for watching.